Welcome to NTD News. I'm Kevin Hogan. Here are today's top stories. The Biden administration is withholding information on migrants coming across the border. That's what Texas says. And FEMA heads down there to manage the surge of illegal immigrants pouring in. Biden and the vice president kicking off a tour this week to tout the new rescue package. Some say the tour is to sway those doubtful, as projections show relief spending could send the federal deficit soaring to record levels. Is the military becoming political? Senator Ted Cruz says it's launching political attacks against civilians who don't agree with its policies, and he wants to put a stop to it. President Biden says he wants to rejoin the Obama-era deal with Iran. Former Trump administration officials advise him to follow Trump's path to success instead. Texas Governor Greg Abbott claimed the White House is withholding information from his state's officials. Information on how many illegal immigrants who have crossed the border have tested positive for the CCP virus. That's as Biden sends FEMA to the border to respond to a record number of migrants arriving. Governor Abbott told Fox News on Sunday that there are illegal immigrants coming across the U.S.-Mexico border who have the virus. He accused the Biden administration of refusing to give his state data on how many migrants have the virus, data Abbott says he expects. The DHS hasn't responded in time for broadcast. Federal facilities have been quickly filling up with migrants over the last few weeks. That's as an increasing number of illegal immigrants pour across the border. Abbott says that's because Biden has relaxed immigration policies. What's more, on Saturday, Biden directed FEMA to assist at the border. That's in response to record numbers of illegal immigrants arriving, and that includes unaccompanied minors. The Emergency Management Agency will support the government effort over the next 3 months. It'll be receiving, sheltering, and transferring unaccompanied children who cross the border illegally. That's according to DHS, which FEMA is a part of. Alejandro Mayorkas, who heads the department, issued a statement saying, "I am incredibly proud of the agents of the Border Patrol who have been working around the clock in difficult circumstances to take care of children temporarily in our care. Yet, as I have said many times, a Border Patrol facility is no place for a child." His announcement comes as the number of unaccompanied minors crossing the border is the highest it's been since the last crisis in 2019. A lawyer representing those unaccompanied children explained what the kids went through at the border facilities. The children allegedly said the overcrowding is so bad some had to sleep on the floor, and they were only allowed to shower once. Others allegedly told lawyers about how they never saw the sun. Biden, Harris, and the First Lady and Second Gentleman are traveling to a couple of states this week as part of a Help Is Here tour. It's an effort to show how the newly passed rescue plan can help struggling Americans, and Biden will give more details on this relief package today. NTD's D.C. correspondent Melina Weiskopf has more from the White House.
In just a few hours here at the White House in the State Dining Room, President Biden is set to give details on how this American Rescue Plan will be implemented. Then tomorrow he's headed to Pennsylvania to start his Here Is Help tour. Vice President Kamala Harris and the Second Gentleman already got a head start on that tour, going to Las Vegas today. Then all three of them, plus the First Lady, are set to give their last stop in Georgia this Friday.
Good afternoon.
Some say Biden's holding this tour to reassure those who doubt the usefulness of his relief plan. Not a single Republican supports the plan. Although many support a plan, they say this one is wasteful spending. Representative Jared Golden, the lone Democrat who voted against it, echoed concerns of Republicans. Golden says the new stimulus sends even more money to programs which haven't even run out of money. For example, there is an additional $130 billion given to schools, which likely won't be used this year. Supporters argue the money will be used eventually. But critics raise concerns about the bigger economic impacts. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the relief price tag is pushing the federal deficit to record levels. Latest projections show 2020's deficit totals to hit over $3 trillion. That's 3 times more than the year before. A prediction from Business Fortune magazine says that today's 25-year-olds could spend $1,700 per year for a while due to high taxes or increased inflation. Senator Rick Scott even making a suggestion to state governments that they should send the unused money back to the federal government. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskopf, NTD News.
President Biden remarks on the sexual misconduct accusations gripping Governor Andrew Cuomo. It's the first time the president has addressed the growing scandal.
Do you think Governor Andrew Cuomo should resign?
I think the investigation is underway and we should see what it brings us.
Cuomo is facing calls from Democrats to resign. That's after 7 women came forward to accuse the governor of inappropriate sexual conduct. The New York Attorney General is probing the allegations against him, yet Cuomo has refused to step down. He blames cancel culture for the pressure. Over 55 Democratic New York legislators signed a letter calling on Cuomo to resign. And the state assembly is beginning an impeachment investigation. Cuomo has stated that the politicians standing against him don't have the facts. He's also started calling himself a political outsider. Cuomo is also still facing multiple investigations over New York's high number of nursing home deaths. A federal court sanctioned top Democratic Party lawyer Mark Elias. He's in trouble for misleading the court about illegal filing. Judges say his actions reflect an ethics violation. Elias and the other attorneys working with him were ordered to pay legal fees and double costs to Texas. They also have to review court rules and complete an hour of training on legal ethics and professionalism. The court says Elias and his colleagues didn't tell their court their latest legal action was nearly identical to one they filed months ago, which was denied by the court. Elias was involved in lawsuits to expand ballot access during the 2020 election, something Trump and GOP supporters criticized him for. Senator Ted Cruz says the military is launching political attacks against civilians who don't agree with its policies. He's asking for a meeting with a top official to put a stop to it.
Senator Ted Cruz wants to meet with the head of the U.S. Marine Corps, following several military statements criticizing Tucker Carlson. Cruz tweeted, "Under Biden, the military is launching political attacks to intimidate Tucker Carlson and other civilians who criticize their policy decisions. Officials in uniform are being used for the campaign." Cruz sent a letter to Defense Secretary Austin about it Sunday. Cruz says the campaign against Carlson came after he criticized gender-based reforms in the military. Carlson linked it with the erosion of the military's war-fighting capabilities. Cruz writes, "Throughout this campaign, military leaders have suggested and insinuated that it is out of bounds for civilians to criticize the military unless they've served. This spectacle risks politicizing the military after several centuries of efforts to keep military officials out of domestic affairs." Cruz says this runs the risk of creating a culture in the military for its civilian leadership. He writes, "This kind of behavior, while perhaps typical in a military-controlled third world country, is completely unacceptable in the United States of America." Last Friday, one Marine unit's official Twitter account shared a photo of a female soldier carrying a male soldier. It tweeted to Carlson, "Get right before you get left, boomer." It later apologized in the comments, writing, "We are human and we messed up. What was intended as a tweet in support of our female Marines and sisters serving in uniform was clearly not assigned with our standard practices or an appropriate representation of the Marine Corps." Cruz says he hopes meeting with the head of the U.S. Marine Corps can put a stop to the recent political attacks.
The White House is preparing to restart talks with Iran. Former Trump officials urge the Biden team to stay tough and build on Trump's successes.
Mike Pompeo and Jared Kushner are calling on Biden to keep a strong stance toward Iran. They advise Biden not to ease sanctions until Iran stops its nuclear program and support for terrorists, though Biden has promised to rejoin the Iran deal signed under the Obama administration. Kushner penned a recent op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, highlighting Trump's accomplishments in the Middle East. He and Trump have both been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. That's over peace deals they forged with Israel and several Arab nations. Kushner praised Biden's diplomacy on Iran so far, saying Trump's sanctions are crippling Iran. He says it's smart to be patient and not ease sanctions too soon, and added that Iran first needs to agree to nuclear inspections and to stop funding terrorists. Then sanctions can lift. Kushner says Trump set the table for Biden in the Middle East. Now Biden just needs to seize the opportunity. On the other hand, Pompeo blasted the Obama-era deal with Iran. He says Trump got Iran to back down by showing strength, and the former administration was on track to make a good deal. He says returning to the Obama deal will destabilize the whole region and threaten American security. The Biden administration plans to restart discussions with Iran. Biden's Secretary of State confirmed sanctions will continue until Iran fully complies with the Obama-era deal, while EU officials say they'll set up a conference with Iran and the U.S. for negotiations.
The Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to drop a case just weeks after the court agreed to hear it. The Supreme Court was set to decide on whether or not to apply a Trump-era abortion restriction. The rule prevents federally funded healthcare providers from referring patients for abortions. All parties involved in the case gave it the okay for it not to be heard, in expectation that President Biden would withdraw the rule. Biden hinted he would remove the restriction in a January 28th memorandum. He said he sees the restriction as preventing low-income people from accessing needed medical services. Those who support the Trump-era rule say it allows medical programs that don't give abortion referrals to get federal funds without having to violate their conscience. CNN and MSNBC ratings crumble without President Trump. A Variety report says there's no easy fix to the legacy news outlets. Some of the biggest networks in America are struggling to draw an audience with Trump. Variety released a report showing plummeting ratings for the biggest cable news networks. CNN suffering the biggest drop. Some of its most popular shows lost almost a third of their audience. MSNBC's ratings are down about half as much as CNN. Fox is down less than 10%. A Gallup poll shows Trump is the most admired man in America. He's been the biggest draw for the news ever since his 2016 campaign. Without him, cable news shows don't have an easy way to fill the void. Trump is quiet leaving the office, and news shows have lost their biggest target. The report says, quote, Trump-bashing tirades lack their zip without their protagonist taking a much lower profile post-election. It notes the cable shows might have to wait until the 2024 election before they can focus on Trump again. And up next, a self-made scholar turned his life around while serving a 15-year prison sentence. He's now about to graduate from Stanford University. And 3 treasures worth millions at a New York City auction house, each with its own story of survival. Find out more in just a moment. An Illinois man who served 15 years in prison expects to graduate from Stanford University this year. After one fateful moment, he knew he wanted to be known for something other than his crime. NTD's David Lamb has the details.
Jason Spires is a senior in computer science at Stanford University. But before transferring into the prestigious college in 2018, he had served 15 years in prison. He told us he started to sell cannabis when he was 19, but things took a turn in the early 2000s.
I then got arrested for a box of 37 pounds of cannabis coming from California to Illinois, sent from my mother's house to my father's house, and I received a 30-year sentence in the Illinois Department of Corrections.
While in prison, he says he saw a tree fall down right before his eyes onto a spot he usually hung out at. He realized that he could have died.
What would my life contribution to society have been had that happened?
He didn't want to be known for selling marijuana, but not knowing what else to do, Spires just tried to get smarter. He started studying chemistry, getting his books from the prison library.
And I would be out in the middle of the day room. I would have earplugs shoved in my ear. To this day, I still use earplugs because, you got 100 inmates in this one little area. And I'd sit there at my table, covered in papers, just like my desk is right now. Oh. And I would sit there and I would practice mole conversion equations.
Spires says he studied 6 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. His written notes ended up stacking higher than his 1,000-page textbook.
And I did every single page, every single problem, every single chapter until it was done.
At one point, he needed a calculator, so he begged the warden to get him one.
And believe it or not, it might sound like a small thing, but he got the library to let me borrow a scientific calculator.
Eventually, his original sentence of 30 years got cut down to 15. He spent 13 and a half years behind bars, then finished his sentence at a work release center. He said his father passed away and he couldn't attend the funeral while in prison. Spires was also fined over $200,000 for possession of marijuana.
I couldn't guarantee it was going to get me to Stanford, but I knew quitting and just playing spades all day long at the card table wasn't going to do too much for me. So I just kept going forward.
According to a Stanford article, Spires planned to attend community college after his release, but transferring to Stanford or another 4-year university became the goal that sustained him. Along with academic challenges, he commuted from school to work on a bicycle, even in the snow. Spires transferred into Stanford 1 year after his release. He became interested in computer science after learning its potential from a programming course. Spires, now 39 years old, expects to graduate this June with an emphasis in artificial intelligence. He hopes to get into a master's program and use his experience and knowledge to support aspiring students, including those who serve jail time. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Some of the rarest and most famous items in the world are set to sell at an auction in New York City. NTD's Don Tran gives us a sneak peek.
At an upcoming auction at Sotheby's in New York City, these rare items are expected to sell for millions. One is the 1933 Double Eagle coin, which was never issued for use. They were all supposed to be destroyed after the U.S. dropped the gold standard.
It's America's most famous gold coin. It's the only one. There are other examples, but they're all owned by the U.S. Mint. This is the only one that's available for private ownership.
Sotheby's estimates it'll sell for between 10 and 15 million. The next item is the rarest stamp in the world, the British Guiana 1 cent magenta stamp.
It was a case of the stamps that had been printed in England didn't make it over to the colony, so they decided to print their own. And this is the only one that survived. And it was found by a 12-year-old boy 20 years later looking through papers.
It's also expected to fetch between $10 and $15 million. And the third item is a plate block of the inverted Jenny stamps. The 24-cent stamp issued in 1918 is the most recognized and sought-after U.S. stamp.
Each one of them has some sort of mishap or mistake that makes them valuable. And of course, I think the mistake on this is obvious. It's the upside-down biplane.
The three items will be on display to the public by appointment at Sotheby's in New York through March 17th.
The worst sandstorm in a decade blew through China's capital on Monday. Skyscrapers appeared to vanish from sight, and hundreds of flights were canceled. The National Meteorological Center forecast the sand and dust would affect 12 provinces and regions, spanning from Xinjiang in the far northwest to Heilongjiang in the northeast and the eastern coastal city of Tianjin. The city's Environmental Monitoring Center says floating particles, known as PM10s, rose beyond 8,000 micrograms per cubic meter in some Beijing districts. The World Health Organization recommends average daily PM10 levels of no more than 50 micrograms. Sandstorms happen regularly in the springtime. Sand from China's Gobi Desert blows eastward, helped along by deforestation and soil erosion throughout northern China. A new hotel in China that features live polar bears is drawing criticism. One animal rights group says polar bears belong in the Arctic, not in a hotel.
A hotel that bills itself as the world's first polar bear hotel has opened in northeast China. It draws both guests and criticism for its central feature, live polar bears. The Polar Bear Hotel is part of the Harbin Polar Land theme park. It opened last Friday with the promise of round-the-clock polar bear viewing from all 21 guest rooms. Photos and videos from Chinese state media and the theme park showed 2 polar bears in an indoor enclosure featuring artificial ice and small pools of water. A spokeswoman for Harbin Polar Land said the photos depicted only part of the bear's total enclosure. She said they could go to an outdoor area when temperature and air quality conditions permitted. Rooms range from about $300 to over $400 per night. Conservationists are criticizing the hotel. PETA says that polar bears belong in the Arctic, not in zoos or glass boxes in aquariums, and certainly not in hotels. It says the bears are active for up to 18 hours a day in nature, roaming home ranges that can span thousands of miles where they enjoy a real life.
And coming up, one farm in Germany has a creative solution for people feeling lonely during the country's lockdown. Visitors there can enjoy the outdoors and some free hugs safely. Find out more on NTD News.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. the Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Have you felt lonely at all because of social distancing? Well, one farm in Germany has a solution. You can keep your distance from people, but still get some hugs in.
In Germany, people found a way to cuddle despite social distancing rules by cuddling with sheep.
We have marvelous sheep here who like it very much if they get visitors, and I know them well. How they react positively toward humans is very safe.
She runs an educational program on a farm in Western Germany. They encourage people to get closer to animals.
I allow people to visit the sheep unattended and have a wonderful time with them in nature and far away from any masks and social distancing.
Visitors have to book an appointment, but can get as close as they like to the shaggy sheep.
I always walk by sheep pastures and they run away, and here it is very different. It's great.
Therese Pfeffer is enjoying her encounter with the animals. The entire cuddle session is free of charge, but visitors will be asked for donations for the farm. They want to make sure the animal meeting programs can continue even after the restrictions end. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Let's turn our attention to health now. Trying to eat better can be as simple as slowing down. Here's our top 7 tips.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. What you eat has a huge impact on your overall health, how you feel, your mood, energy levels, and even your immunity. The link between diet and health is so strong that the Chinese say that if a person isn't feeling well, they should first try healing through their diet. And only if diet doesn't work should one try acupuncture or herbs. The reality is that the right food combinations for each person are different. However, while the specific foods that are right for you may be different from that of your best friend, there are some guidelines for eating better that can work for everyone. Here's some advice based on Chinese food therapy and Western medicine. Number 1, go slow. Inhaling your food in 2 minutes between meetings or while you're running out the door isn't healthy. It's all about digestion, and in order to get the most nutrition from your food, you need to digest it fully. You actually begin the digestive process in your mouth through the breakdown of carbohydrates by chemicals in your saliva. Number 2, plan your meals and snacks. People who are busy or tired tend to grab what's handy, not what's healthy. If you know that you're going to be too tired to make an elaborate meal when you get home, plan ahead. Have something pre-made that's nutritious or easy to heat up instead of another frozen pizza or dinner from the drive-thru. Number 3, stop eating before you're full. It takes a while for your mind to catch up with your stomach. Some experts recommend to stop eating when you're about 80% full, as doing so is associated with weighing less and living longer. Number 4, pay attention to what you are drinking. Soda and fruit juice are full of sugar, but many people don't realize just how much. That's because the sugar is dissolved into liquid, so manufacturers can pack a lot into your drink without it being visible. This promotes inflammation, leads to weight gain, and increases your risk for diabetes and high blood pressure. Number 5, eat lots of colors. Eating a wide variety of colorful foods, especially in the form of fruits and vegetables, ensures that you are getting a wide range of nutrients. It's as easy as working your way through the rainbow. Number 6, get cooking. This actually means a couple of things. First, by cooking your own food, you are using simple ingredients and have control over what's going into your meal. Second, in Chinese medicine, cooking your food instead of eating it raw energetically warms it up and makes it easier to digest. Number 7, don't skip breakfast. A lot of people say they just aren't hungry first thing in the morning. However, eating just a small amount of food helps to level out your blood sugar and decreases food cravings. We hope these 7 tips will improve your health and energy levels. Thanks for watching.
And that's all for now. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.